The most exciting 2 minutes in sports 2025, the Kentucky Derby, and it's time to start handicapping. We're going to kick it off this year with the final fractions theory. We've been doing this for 4 years. It's a very popular theory, and the Twin Spires at Churchill Downs, that'll be the place to be the first Saturday in May. We're going to talk about the final fractions theory, what it is, how to use it, how to calculate it. This year we're using the GPS data from the Equibase charts. I'm going to give you a link to a Google Sheet so you can look at the data and do some sorting yourself. Who qualifies this year on the double qualifier, some of the outliers on the trail this year, and how to use it as a guide to separate from the contenders and the pretenders in 2025. But the final fraction theory helps you understanding the race dynamics. Remember, this will be the first time that horses are going 1.25 miles, carrying 126 pounds, and they're stretching out from mainly 1.125 mile races. And of course, the theory was popularized by handicapper and communications from Churchill Downs over the years, Jenny Reese. She kind of came up with the final fractions theories to kind of separate the horses that were stretching out to 1.25 miles. Other handicappers have added on speed components to it, Beyer speed figures, Brisnet speed figures, Quirin speed points, all of that. But we're going to use the original method. The final 3 ace in less than 38 seconds or less, and the final eighth in less than 13 seconds and less. So they must qualify under both. And if you would have used this in the last 36 years, 31 of the winners would have came from the final fractions theory. And of course, that is an 86% success rate. Now, over the years, there's been as many as 70% of the horses qualifying and as few as 7 or 8 contenders. Now, the last 2 years did produce some upsets, but they both qualified as dual qualifiers under the final fractions theory. Mystic Dan and Mage both qualified. 13 horses qualified last year in 2024. And we're going to show you how to calculate them. We're going to use the GPS charts. We need 3 things. We need the final time in tenths of a second. We need the 6 furlong time in tenths of a second, and the 1 mile time in tenths of a second. Now, to calculate the final 3 ace, you take number 3 on this chart, the final time, minus number 1, the 6 furlong call, and that gives you the final 3 furlongs. So for Rodriguez, he did the final 3 furlongs in 36.90 seconds. Now, for the final eighth, you want to take number 3, the final time, from the 1 mile time, and that's going to get you the final eighth of a mile. So 12.47 seconds for Rodriguez in that final eighth. And he ran a fast final time. He is a double qualifier. Let's take a look. Before we get into the numbers, I want to tell you that there will be a link in the description to a Google Sheet so you can download this, look at it, mark it up yourself, and see all of the runners in this year's Derby. And of course, Dubai, we don't get internal fractions, so we can't calculate for Admire Daytona. I'm going to continue to work on extrapolating those fractions, so this sheet will be updated as we get closer to the Derby. Also, the Jeff Ruby Stakes was on synthetic, and the Louisiana Derby we have to extrapolate because they go 1 mile and 3/16. They're not going 1 mile and an eighth, so we have to calculate that out from the mile to the 1 mile and an eighth time. Now, Luxor Cafe in Japan, we have no fractions. We don't have any internal splits. Again, I'm going to keep on working on those. But with no further ado, here are the double qualifiers in 2025. We've got 10 horses: Journalism, Rodriguez, Tistastic, Tappan Street, Sovereignty, Final Gambit, American Promise, Flying Mohawk, Grande, and Baeza. Now, I should note that American Promise doesn't qualify for the final eighth, but that track was very fast, and it was a 1-turn mile and an eighth. And this is the first year we've had the Virginia Derby on the trail. Also, Flying Mohawk and Final Gambit ran on the synthetic. It's always pace dependent on the synthetic. Admire Daytona and Luxor Cafe, we have no numbers for. So now we're going to sort them by the fastest final 3 ace. We've got Final Gambit and Rodriguez with the fastest final numbers. Tappan Street and Sovereignty are right behind. But Journalism right there as well, 37.59. He did his last eighth in 12.32. That's the second fastest final eighth for Journalism. Of course, Final Gambit, again, the synthetic. He just motored home. The synthetic races, you always have to extrapolate the early pace to get the late pace. But he does qualify, and we'll talk more about him and some of these other runners in the next couple of weeks leading into the Derby. Baeza just doesn't qualify, 38.15, but he did the final eighth in 12.63 seconds. I'm going to leave him in here as he most likely will get into the Kentucky Derby. Now, what this is measuring is the ability to sustain a long run to the finish line from the 3 ace pole. And that's what you're looking for. Horses like Journalism, horses like Rodriguez, Sovereignty, they were able to take their class and move those final 3 ace of a mile into under 38 seconds. Now, the final eighth, what this is, because it's that last eighth, you're trying to get speed and stamina. So that final eighth is the run to the wire down the lane. Now, a horse like I Admire Daytona was pressured hard in Dubai. Journalism was kind of eased up. Sovereignty made up ground down the lane. Rodriguez was able to just keep on punching a fast speed figure all the way through the wire. So this does take into account the class, speed, and stamina to be able to bring that to the wire. Remember, what you're looking for is horses that can do both. Now, the Contenders, what you want to do with these horses, these top 10 Contenders, is start to look at other things like pedigree, Brisnet speed, buyer speed figures. We're going to be doing that in the next few weeks. How many days off they've got from that final prep, and also incorporate workouts. So what I like to use this as is horses that you think can kind of put into the mix, horses you want to maybe use in exactas or trifectas or superfectas. Now, two horses that don't qualify, Sandman did 38.80 for the final 3 ace, but he does qualify for the final eighth in under 13 seconds, 12.97. Sandman is a contender to me, but he's not a double qualifier. Meanwhile, Burnham Square, it was kind of a drying out track at Keeneland for the Bluegrass. They went fast early, so the final fractions were 38.88 for the final 3 ace and 13.08 for Burnham Square. He does not qualify in either of the two. Now, he's probably going to be right around 10 to 1. Maybe you use this data and don't use them. Maybe you take a look at other factors and include them into the mix. Those two are not double qualifiers. Sandman, to me, is definitely a horse that I'm going to be looking at as we get closer to the Derby. Now, horses to watch out of this system: Rodriguez, Journalism, Tappan Street, Sovereignty, and Tistastic. Those are the horses, double qualifiers, fast final eighth, fast final 3 ace for the final fractions theory in 2025. Now, here's all of the Contenders data. You see Burnham Square with that 38.88, Tappan Street 37.06. In the description, there'll be a link to a Google Sheet. You can download this. You can do a save as, however you want to use it. I will be updating this as the field changes all the way through the Kentucky Derby, and I'm trying to work on some fractions for Admire Daytona and Luxor Cafe to see if we can get them in to the spreadsheet. So link in the description, Google Sheets, download that data. Don't forget, we've got post positions drawn on April 26th, Kentucky Oaks May 2nd, Pat Day Mile May 3rd, and the Kentucky Derby on May 3rd. And of course, the most exciting 2 minutes in sports, the final fractions theory. Do you like it? Smash that like button if you're ready for more data. The Kentucky Derby Pedigree Show comes your way Tuesday, April 29th with Jessica Tugwell. We go over all of the contenders and also the Triple Crown Prospectus every Monday. Sign up for the Triple Crown Prospectus Gold. I'll be putting out more links to spreadsheets and data throughout the Derby season here and Triple Crown season. There's a link for Triple Crown Prospectus Gold, and that'll have more data in the spreadsheets. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. It's the Kentucky Derby 2025. The 151st running. And remember, D. Wayne Lucas always says, people have opinions, horses have the facts.